A 6-year-old boy was giving his brother CPR, and the paramedics were shocked.
You're doing great. Where'd you learn that?
In health class.
The brother went into fibrillation. The paramedic told the boy to step back and charge to 70 joules.
Clear?
However, the boy didn't react, so they quickly gave him an IV injection. The mother rushed over after hearing the news. Right then, the paramedic felt something pop.
I think I just felt something pop.
Probably just his rib.
I'm not so sure.
The mother was confused by their talk, but she stayed quiet since her son's life was in their hands. They tried to intubate him, but couldn't find the airway. It wasn't a rib that popped.
It's pneumothorax. I popped his lung.
The mother lost her cool after hearing this and pushed the paramedic away. Even though they explained, she still insisted on calling another ambulance.
Look at your son! Look at him! If you don't let me do my job, he's gonna die. You hear me?
This terrified the mother and made her cry. Next, they successfully intubated him and gave him a shot of adrenaline. Soon, his pulse returned and his pupils began to react. The mother cried with joy, and the paramedics were happy to have saved another life. A metal rod pierced through a young boy's shoulder. Not long ago, a garbage truck caught fire. An explosion shot a piston rod out, and it flew straight into a school bus.
Please hurry, there are 2 boys stuck inside.
Get these kids out of the street.
Firefighters quickly evacuated the students to a safe area. Inside the bus, one boy was pinned between the seats by the rod. The other end of the metal rod pierced another boy's shoulder. He screamed in unbearable pain.
Hey, look out!
Firefighters put out the fire fast, then brought tools onto the bus. The boy's collarbone was already broken. His face looked like he didn't know whether to cry or laugh.
Luca, you gotta trust me that we're gonna get you out of here, okay? But you have to stay really, really still.
They were about to free the boy trapped between the seats.
Stop!
What?
His clavicle's an inch away from his carotid.
But they had no choice. Otherwise, neither boy could be saved. Through the boy's screams, they finally freed the first boy. Then firefighters cut the metal rod and carefully carried him out. He was so small, yet so brave. A car crashed, but the baby inside was gone. The driver was unconscious with serious injuries, and a boy in the back was frozen in shock. Firefighters found a hole in the windshield. A large rock that flew inside was the cause. The priority was to get the people out. The driver's pupils were already uneven. However, what the little boy said left the firefighters confused.
Where's Layla? She was right here.
Who's Layla?
She's my baby sister. Where did she go?
Looking at the empty baby seat, the firefighters told everyone to search the area.
Anybody else hear that? Hey, quiet!
A faint cry came from underground. The baby was lying inside a sewer.
Oh my God!
Firefighters pried open the manhole cover and quickly pulled the baby out. The car was badly damaged, and the mother and son were hurt. But the baby flying out and surviving was a miracle. Soon, the family of 3 was sent to the hospital. But it wasn't over yet who threw that large rock that caused the crash. The car was totaled in the crash, the baby flew out, and the mother and son were both injured. Luckily, with the help of a kind bystander, the family was sent to the hospital. But the paramedics felt something was wrong. They suspected the rock was thrown on purpose. They went back to the scene to investigate, but couldn't find any clues. Because of their investigation, they got themselves into big trouble. The firefighters in the truck saw everything. Luckily, they saw the danger in time and weren't hurt. The culprit tried to escape on a motorcycle when he was exposed, but the fire truck blocked his path and pinned him down. It turns out the culprit was that kind bystander from the scene. He was a psycho with a hero complex. He purposely caused accidents and then saved people to feel great. There are many ways to do good. Why choose a path that hurts others? Only prison is waiting for him now. People crawled like dogs, searching through broken glass. Even as firefighters pushed them, no one left. The jewelry store nearby just exploded, and flames were still roaring inside. A second explosion could happen any second. But with gold and silver scattered everywhere, people lost their minds over the money. Firefighters had to force them out, and the crowd left looking unhappy. Firefighters put on masks to search for survivors. Flames were everywhere inside the store. They saw an ultrasonic cleaner burning on a table. These machines use high voltage and can explode if left on too long. This caused the blast. They pried open a corner door and found an old man. He was on the floor groaning in pain with severe burns. Firefighters used a water hose to clear a path and carried him out. He likely forgot to turn off the machine. He was then rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. The remaining firefighters continued to fight the fire. Police arrived to see if the blast was a setup for a robbery. Finally, the owner arrived, seeing decades of hard work destroyed. Luckily, the jewelry was insured, so the loss wasn't too bad. The man didn't care if his wife lived or died and jumped out the window alone. Just now, the house caught fire, and this man broke the glass screaming for help. Firefighters raised the ladder, and he jumped so hard, he almost knocked the firefighter off. Everyone's heart was in their throat. The firefighter grabbed the edge of the ladder and climbed back up, just in time to save his life.
Who else is inside?
My wife.
She was in the bathroom.
I'm right.
Yeah! But the wife is still in the bathroom.
Got it.
The firefighter crawled back into the burning room to search and heard a faint cry under the bed. They pulled the woman out and dragged her through the sea of fire. The man immediately asked if his wife had stopped breathing. He was already hated, but this made him even more despicable.
I'd like to throw the husband back through the window.
But to everyone's surprise, this man became a hero husband in the news. He lied to the reporters with a straight face, saying he was the one who saved his wife.
Oh, compelling story, Glenn. Sir, could you tell us exactly what happened?
Oh, of course, Dwight. My house was on fire and I nearly wet myself, so I barreled out of a window, nearly killing a fireman while leaving my poor wife to die.
Oh.
We should call the station and tell our side of the story. Who cares? Let the guy say what he wants.
The man abandoned his wife and almost killed a firefighter, yet he was called a hero. Even worse, he shamelessly went to the fire station to tell them not to believe the news. Facing their disgusted looks, he pulled up his shirt, showing deep burn scars. He said a garage explosion at age 16 killed his parents and scarred him, so he was terrified of fire. It seemed he was just there to gain sympathy.
Walk a mile, man. Walk a mile.
Everyone thought that was the end. However, when firefighters rechecked the house, they found 3 different fire starting points. The V-shaped burn marks on the walls also proved this was arson. The police quickly found the man. It turns out he had huge debts and wanted to use the fire to get insurance money from his wife. Even the house that just burned down was bought using his parents' insurance money from when he intentionally set a fire as a child. The man will now face justice. But poor wife, what will she think when she wakes up? A worker accidentally fell into a truck full of soybeans. The foolish driver opened the bottom chute to help, but it made things worse for the worker. The sudden drop in pressure at the bottom made him sink faster and deeper. Soon, he sank even more. At first, half his body was out, but in a blink, he was buried to his neck. 1 second he was yelling for help, the next he went completely quiet. The huge pressure squeezed his chest, making it hard to breathe. Firefighters kept trying and finally grabbed his hand, barely stopping him from sinking. And these thin-looking wooden boards became life-saving tools. They pushed the boards into the beans, making a box around the man. With the boards blocking the beans, no new beans flowed in while they dug. The beans went down fast, and they soon dug a deep hole.
Stay with me, George. Herman, faster. Get it!
Then, they tied a safety rope around his body. Everyone pulled together. The suction was scary. It took 6 grown men pulling with all their might to get him out. He was quickly put on a stretcher and rushed to the hospital. Who knew soybeans could be so dangerous?